the Chi-Town is Bears on the flight. Let me go tune in to Keek on the mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the like.
A NFL insider just gave us a massive update on the current Chicago Bears head coaching search. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Bears fans, before I go any further with today's episode of Keek on the Mic, I want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and that is BetUS. Bears fans, BetUS is just finding new ways to make you more and more money every single day. I know if you guys are a lot like me and you guys took a lot of chances on the Chicago Bears this season, I know very well that you lost a lot of money on the Chicago Bears this year. But do you know that BetUS also has a casino, and now you can do online games, online slots as well. And right now, for a 200% sign up bonus up to $5,000 on slots, or a 250% for crypto sign up bonus up to $1,000 as well. Bears fans, I definitely think you guys should go check out that opportunity, especially if you like slots. So Bears fans, here we go. Once again, we have another significant update in regard to the Chicago Bears head coaching search. Once again, we are still a long ways away on finding out who the next Chicago Bears head coach will be. But Jordan Schultz, NFL insider, was actually on the herd with Colin Cowherd, just talking about the Chicago Bears and just giving some updates and his opinion on the Chicago Bears head coaching search. And once again, Jordan Schultz is one of those insiders that when he talks, you kind of listen. He does have some deep intel on what's going on. So I choose to listen to what he has to say when he talks about the Chicago Bears. But he basically said to Colin Cowherd, and this is what he said. He said, the Chicago Bears head coaching search is a two-horse race between Mike McCarthy and Ben Johnson. Check out this clip, Bears fans.
And I think it's been made clear to me that for all intents and purposes, the Chicago job, and I haven't said this publicly, but it is a two-horse race between Mike McCarthy and Ben Johnson. Now,
it is.
I think if Brian Flores goes in and wows him, then he is still in that mix. But right now, I think McCarthy and I think Ben Johnson are the two leading candidates for Chicago. And it will be really interesting to see what type of direction they want to go, because in many ways, the franchise is Caleb Williams, ideally for the next decade plus.
So they're going to get, Caleb said yesterday or the day before on Amaron St. Brown's podcast, I'd prefer an offensive coach I can grow
Totally
with.
get it.
So they're going to give him that.
They're going to give him an offensive coach, I believe, but he's not going to have a say in the hiring. Yes, he's the number one pick. Yes, he's the franchise. He's the cornerstone, but he's still a second-year player. It's not like he's going to Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles saying, give me Ben Johnson. He's not going to influence the decision in that capacity, but they also recognize, the Bears do, that they have now had Matt Eberflus, Luke Getsy, Shane Waldron, all of these coaches that have not connected to their players, especially this year with Caleb and Waldron. So they're desperately in need, in my opinion, of an offensive coach, an innovator that will help get Caleb from point A to point B. And if you look at Mike McCarthy, he's not a perfect coach, but one thing he has done very well is help develop an Aaron Rodgers, help develop a Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
I think in theory he could do the same thing with Caleb, although if I'm the Bears, my number one choice should be Ben Johnson.
All right, Bears fans, to me, this is not surprising at all. You know, obviously you look at Mike McCarthy, offensive mind, a guy that has proven experience, a guy that has done it at a high level for a very long time, a guy that wins, a guy that has a 60% career winning percentage, a guy that has experience winning the playoffs, a guy that also has a Super Bowl championship under his belt, a guy that knows how to develop quarterbacks. You're talking about the history and the tenure and the guys that he has developed, right? Aaron Rodgers, you saw what he did with Dak Prescott as well, taking him to an MVP level. And then you have Ben Johnson. It's the fan favorite amongst Chicago Bears fan. Look what he has done with Jared Goff. Look what he's done with the Detroit Lions offense over the last couple of years, making them one of the best over the last couple of years in the National Football League. Obviously, each of them have their flaws, but it seems like the Chicago Bears have one proven guy, a proven head coach that's offensive minded, and that young and upcoming guy that you would be taking a risk on. I think both would be really good options for the Chicago Bears. But before I break this down any further, something that did catch my eye, and I know it probably caught your guys' attention too, and we have to discuss this on today's episode of Geek on the Mic, is when he brought up defensive coordinator from the Minnesota Vikings, Brian Flores. That's a name that we've talked about before just because of the connection that he has with Ryan Poles dating back to their Boston College days. He insinuated, I'm talking about Jordan Schultz here, he clearly told Colin Cowherd that, hey, if Brian Flores goes into his interview, he can definitely wow them and be in that mix and be possibly in that top 3 of finalists to be the next Chicago Bears head coach, but it would take a very strong interview. Bears fans, I'm very okay with either Mike McCarthy or Ben Johnson. I am not okay with Brian Flores. We all saw how it went when he was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Tua hated him. He wasn't really good at developing Tua at any way, shape, or form. And it just wasn't a good tenure there with the Miami Dolphins. And I understand that, guys can learn from their mistakes. Maybe he, gets the job with the Chicago Bears and maybe things work out for him this time. But I don't think the Chicago Bears can afford to take that type of risk. I think he has done a pretty good job. Despite what you saw on Monday night against the Los Angeles Rams, I think when you're looking at the whole season, the Minnesota Vikings were a top 5 unit, right? So he did a really good job as the Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator. But as a head coach, I think eventually he deserves another chance. I just hope it's not with the Chicago Bears. So I would be really tuned out if Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, and the Bears organization decided to go with Brian Flores. That's just my personal opinion, and you guys can very well comment down below and give me your opinions. If you really want Brian Flores, give me your reasonings on why. To me, I think he's a really good defensive coordinator. I don't think he's a good head coach. Once again, maybe he learned from his mistakes back when he was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. But I just don't think it's the right time for the Chicago Bears to explore him as an option as the next Bears head coach. But when we're looking at Mike McCarthy and Ben Johnson, it's no surprise whatsoever that it's become a 2-horse race between McCarthy and Ben Johnson. Here's what the Chicago Bears now have to worry about. If Ben Johnson's number 1 or Mike McCarthy 2, that means the Chicago Bears are willing to wait for Ben Johnson until he's done with his playoff run with the Detroit Lions. Obviously, you take some risk there because the big question is how long are you willing to wait for Ben Johnson? Obviously, we all know this. The Raiders are now also involved in the Ben Johnson sweepstakes. There's a lot of Raiders fans very confident that, it's almost a done deal for him to go to Las Vegas, which I'm not sure how much I want to believe that because, once again, his obligation is with the Detroit Lions right now. So I think he is just focusing on being the OC of the Detroit Lions and their playoff run. But how long do the Chicago Bears want to wait? Because if they want to wait for Ben Johnson, that is totally fine. But how about you risk the chance of losing your second option in Mike McCarthy, which I also think it's a really strong option for this team. And as much as we do love Ben Johnson and as much as we love what we've seen from Ben Johnson and what he's been able to do with Jared Goff in the Detroit Lions offense, I think hiring Ben Johnson as the next head coach of the Chicago Bears may be a higher risk. And I know it's a risk that a lot of Bears fans are willing to take. He's obviously the hottest head coaching candidate in this cycle, but there is no guarantee that it's actually going to work out for him as a head coach. So now let's shift our attention to Mike McCarthy. Once again, we talked about Mike McCarthy just the other day on this podcast and how I'm starting to realize that Mike McCarthy would also be a really good option for the Chicago Bears. When you're talking about a proven head coach, that is Mike McCarthy. He has developed a lot of young quarterbacks. He has won a lot of football games. Whether you like Mike McCarthy or not, he is a proven winner. And I know a lot of people may sit here and say, well, Mike McCarthy to me is just a little bit outdated. I think he would come in here and it would just be the status quo for the Chicago Bears. We would just go 9-8 or 10-7 every year, and maybe just make the playoffs, and that's it. We probably wouldn't elevate or get to the Super Bowl after a certain amount of time. But here's my thing for that crowd. What room do we have to talk as Chicago Bears fans? A organization that has been bad for so long. The last time the Chicago Bears have won a playoff game was back in 2010. So we have really no room to analyze a guy that consistently wins, once again, a 60% winning percentage in his head coaching career. The guy has gone 11-11 in the playoffs, meaning that he has coached in 22 playoff games while winning 11 of them. And even though it was a long time ago, the guy also is a Super Bowl champion. Once again, we have to give Mike McCarthy more respect. If you want to analyze his time in Dallas, that is totally fine. He went 1-3 in the postseason with the Dallas Cowboys. He still took the Dallas Cowboys to 4 playoff appearances, right? Going 12-5 in 3 of those seasons. He wins everywhere he goes. I think that's what the Chicago Bears kind of need at this point. And I was huge on Ben Johnson. I still wouldn't be disappointed if the Chicago Bears opted to hire a guy like Ben Johnson. I think he would also be really good for Caleb Williams. But when you look at Mike McCarthy, he's already established. And to me, it's not the sexy pick, but it may be the safe pick. And I know there's a lot of Bears fans, and I was on the same route as well. There's a lot of Bears fans that don't want the safe pick. But when you look at Mike McCarthy, he would come in, create that culture. I think players would respect him, and the Chicago Bears would have the chance to probably win 9-10 games a year and get into the playoffs. Would they win the Super Bowl? I'm not sure. That remains to be seen. He had a lot of good Dallas Cowboys teams in his tenure as the Cowboys head coach, and he wasn't able to get it done. But when you look at the state where the Chicago Bears are at right now, you feel like you have a franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams. You have the pieces around him. You still have a very good defense, right? When you really look at the Chicago Bears, it seems like all we need is to really continue to build the trenches, build that offensive line, continue to build that defensive line, and then you just need your coach. Then you insert Mike McCarthy. Once again, a proven head coach with proven experience, a guy that's proven that he can win at this level, a guy that has proven that he can develop young quarterbacks as well. And you may be cooking with some grease here. Maybe Mike McCarthy is exactly what the Chicago Bears need. It may be the safe pick. It may not be the sexy pick, but it may be the right pick over Ben Johnson. I know that sounds crazy to say, but I have made a complete 180 over the last couple of days. The more and more I look at Mike McCarthy, the more and more I'm starting to think that Mike McCarthy may actually be the right guy for the Chicago Bears job. Not only that, you have to understand that Mike McCarthy has been in the league so long that he has a lot of connections to bring also a lot of really good coaches to coach under him as well. And that's also just as important. When you look at Ben Johnson, I know that he's prepared, or he seems like he's prepared to be a head coach, but does he have the connections that Mike McCarthy has? No, absolutely not. So to me, whether you agree with me or not, that's on you. I'm just giving you guys on my input on what I've really been thinking about over the last couple of days, and that Mike McCarthy may not be a bad option for the Chicago Bears moving forward. Once again, it's not a sexy pick by no means, right? There's a lot of people who are saying, you know what, Mike McCarthy's had his opportunity. I think it's time for the Bears to take a risk and take that hot candidate and Ben Johnson. But my thing is, once again, going back to my first point, if Ben Johnson is your number one and you're willing to wait for him until he's done with his obligation with the Detroit Lions, how long are you willing to wait for Ben Johnson and possibly lose out on Mike McCarthy? Because, for example, let's say we wait on Ben Johnson. He ends up choosing the Las Vegas Raiders. And by that time, we waited so long that we lost out on Mike McCarthy as well. Then you may be stuck with someone that you really don't want. So the Bears have to be careful here. Once again, nothing's set in stone. I think it's smart that these are the two front runners. I think they're two outstanding coaches in different ways and different points of their careers. And they'll bring different type of, things to this football team, even though they're both offensive minded guys. And once again, one has proven experience and one is, a hot candidate, hasn't proven it yet, but there's a lot of anticipation that he can also be the next great head coach in the National Football League. So Bears fans, I just wanted to come on here really quick and give you my input, share what Jordan Schultz had to say to Colin Cowherd on his podcast, The Herd. Go ahead and comment down below in the comment section to let me know how you're feeling about all this. I can't wait to hear from you guys. But other than that, Bears fans, make sure you guys continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms and make sure you share this episode of Geek on the Mic with every single Bears that you know. And once again, make sure you guys go check out BetUS and their new sign-up bonus up to $5,000, 200% sign-up bonus. If you enjoy slots and casinos and all that online stuff, BetUS is definitely the place to go. But other than that, Bears fans, I'll be back for an all-new Bears podcast right here on Geek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic.